Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 15th chapter. But Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set upon them on the Sabbath day. So he decided, you know what? Oh, that's where they are? We're going to wait till the Sabbath day and we'll take advantage and go after them then. Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, Oh, destroy not so cruelly and barbarously, but give honor to that day, which he that seeth all things, meaning which is the Most High, hath honored with holiness above all other days. So the Jews that were with him, right under his command, try to dissuade him from doing that. Then the most ungracious wretch, being Nicanor, demanded if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. You know, who is this? Is there really one, a mighty one in heaven, who made this Sabbath? And when they said, There is in heaven a living Lord and mighty, and who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, Nicanor, And I also am mighty upon earth, and I command to take arms, and to do the king's business. Yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done. See, so he's basically saying, oh, you're saying the Lord, you know, he's a mighty God who commanded the seventh day to be kept. Well, I'm telling you, I'm mighty on earth, and I'm telling you, you're going to grab those weapons and you're going to take up those arms. But as it says here, yet he obeyed not, or he obtained not to have his wicked will done. So in the long run, his plan didn't go according as he wanted it. So Nicanor, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him. But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. So he had faith. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. So he basically put it into their remembrance the deliverances the Lord had already, wrought with them, to to exhort them that, hey, he's done it before, he's going to do it again. And so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful, right? Remember, like, the Lord's been with us all this whole time, right? All those previous battles we won, that was the Lord. So what are we nervous about? What are we afraid of? And when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, shewing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths. Thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears, as with comfortable and good words. See, so yeah, they had their armor and their shields and their spears and all that, but the most important armor he armed them with was with the exhortation, to have faith and trust in the Lord, right? The comfortable and good words. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed. So basically saying, if this dream indeed was true, then there's one that's definitely worthy to be believed, which did not a little rejoice them. So when he told them this, it completely boosted up their spirit. And this was his vision, that Onias, who had been high priest, a virtuous and a good man, a reverend in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hands, prayed for the whole body of the Jews. So he has this dream, about Onias, who was like a good man, a role model man. And in his dream, Onias is praying for the whole body of the Jews. He's praying for everybody, the congregation. This done, in like manner, there appeared a man with gray hairs, and exceeding glorious, who was of a wonderful and excellent majesty. So while this was happening, a man with gray hairs, right, looking decked out, pulls up. Then Onias answered, saying, This is a lover of the brethren, who prayeth much for the people and for the holy city, to wit, Jeremiah is the prophet of God. So basically, Onias said, This man is Jeremiah. Whereupon Jeremiah, holding forth his right hand, gave to Judas a sword of gold, and in giving it, spake thus: Take this sword, a gift from God, with the which thou shalt wound the adversary. So that sword in Judas's dream was a sign, right, of the victory that they would gain. And so in him saying this, exhorting his men with this dream, okay, or this vision, you can see why they got so amped up. Thus being well comforted by the words of Judas, which were very good, and able to stir them up to valor, see, get them that courage, and to encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined not to pitch camp, but courageously to set upon them, and manfully to try the matter by conflict. So rather than just pitching in camp and waiting around, they were ready. They were ready right then and there to go, as it says, and try the matter by conflict, to fight back, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. For the care that they took for their wives and their children, their brethren, and flocks, was in least account with them, but the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple. See how they put the Most High first. They said, yeah, they care about their wives and children and all that, but the primary concern they had was with the temple. Also, they that were in the city took not the least care, being troubled for the conflict abroad. And now, when as all looked what should be the trial, and the enemies were already come near, and the army was set in array, and the beasts conveniently placed, and the horsemen set in wings, Maccabees, seeing the coming of the multitude, and the diverse preparations of armor, and the fierceness of the beasts, stretched out his hands toward heaven, and called upon the Lord that worketh wonders, knowing that victory cometh not by arms, but even as it seemeth good to him, being the victory is determined by the Most High, not by how many arms or soldiers or whatever you have. He giveth it to such as are worthy. Therefore in his prayer he said after this manner, O Lord, this is a Judas's prayer, thou didst send thine angel in the time of Ezekias king of Judea, and didst slay in the host of Sennacherib 185,000. Wherefore now also, O Lord of heaven, send a good angel before us for a fear and dread unto them, to deliver Israel, right, and to discomfort the enemy. And through the might of thine arm, let those be stricken with terror that come against thy holy people to blaspheme. And he ended thus. Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs. But Judas and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer, so that fighting with their hands and praying unto God with their hearts, they slew no less than 35,000 men. That's Judas's men, being armed with the faith and the spirit, slew Nicanor's men of 35,000. For through the appearance of God, they were greatly cheered. Now, when being based on the signs the Lord showed them, right, and the exhortation, it completely amped them up. It got them ready. Now, when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout, praising the Almighty in their own language. See, so now they were like thanking the Lord for this deliverance. And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love toward his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. So chop them off. So when he was there and called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent them for them that were of the tower, or he sent for them that were of the tower. So after he had gathered, the priests and all of them together, he went and got those that were in the tower and shewed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of that blasphemer, which was proud, with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. Right, he was going to tear it down, destroy it, and build on it the temple of Bacchus. And when he had cut out the tongue of that ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple. Okay, so he got a just due for that pride and wickedness. Here it is. You got your tongue cut out, given to birds to eat. Damn. So every man praised toward the heaven the glorious Lord, saying, Blessed be he that hath kept his own place undefiled. Right? Thanks. Blessed be the Lord who had mercy, and prevented the temple from being defiled. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of the Lord. So by hanging Nicanor's head over there, people would be in awe and say, whoa, isn't that Nicanor? Like, damn, this guy was, he came up with an army and everything, and look at what happened to him at the hand of the Jews, right? So their God that they have is no joke. Verse 36, and they ordained all with a common decree, in no case to let that day pass without solemnity. So they would keep that day every time it would come to pass, right? Every year. But to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, which is in the Syrian tongue called Adar, the day before Mordecai's day, right? The day before the day. Mordecai from the book of Esther is going back to the time of Purim. Thus went it with Nicanor, and from that time forth the Hebrews had the city in their power, and here will I make an end. So this would happen. This was the fate of Nicanor, and going forward from there, we had control of our own city, right? We were good again. And so as the author says, right, this is basically where they end their account of the abridging of the events that transpired, with us being subject to the Greeks under Antiochus and other Greek kings, and how the Lord helped us and delivered us by the hand of the Hasmoneans. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, it is that which I desired. So he's saying, if this was good, then, hey, that's what they desired it to be. But if slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain to. So he's saying, if this was good, then, hey, I'm glad. This is what I was aiming for. But if the readers find this is not so good, then, hey, this is the best I could do. For as it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingled with water is pleasant, and delighteth the taste, even so speech finely framed delighteth the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end. So he's saying, when you recount or when you put together, words or a story or whatnot, and how you tell it, how you line up the events, how you, as it says, finely framed, makes it easier for those that read it. Okay. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 15th chapter, and the entirety of the book of 2nd Maccabees. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.